Hi, this is Andy Talbot, and here with Charley Boorman. Charley, can I ask you start off, first of all, can I ask you, what means did you get here today to the centre of Liverpool? How did you get here?
Today, quite boring really. I got a really early flight with that airline called Ryanair, and I forgot to run by that rip-off guy, and I forgot to print out my boarding pass, so I had to pay €40 to get a boarding pass at the airport. So yeah, but that's like at 6:40 in the morning.
Standing for loads of baggage.
No, I didn't have any bags, luckily, but there were people just, I saw people beautifully checking in and all the other airlines, and there was this total chaos at Ryanair. People have been sent left, right and centre, and but I've had big enough problems going through airports anyway. It drives me up the wall. I hate them. This whole thing of 100 ml of water, of liquid that you can't take more than 100 ml in, but you can buy as many litres of water as you want and liquid as you want once you get through customs. Do they check every single bottle in duty free? No.
Did you have to use a carnet to get in over here though?
Oh yeah.
That dirty work
to get into Liverpool. Yeah, a carnet of goods to get to Liverpool, because it's a little country of its own. So carnets are a huge problem. A carnet is basically a document. So when you go into a country or out of a country, you stamp the document going into country to say that you have a vehicle or camera equipment or whatever it is, and that you won't be selling it in that country, and that when you leave the country, you stamp the carnet again, and they check to see if you've still got all your bits and pieces. And so that's what a carnet does. But they're a nightmare.
And on the programme at the moment, it's sort of Sunday night at 8 o'clock, I think, isn't it? BBC Two? Yeah, just get the plug in. There's not a lot of mention of carnets. Is somebody else doing that in the background?
Well, a lot of the countries we went through, the non-carnet countries, Papua New Guinea, Indonesia, Philippines, and Taiwan are non. Actually, the only carnet country is Britain, and we had to stamp our carnet out, and then 3.5 months later we stamped the carnet back in again. So that was the only countries. But if you're travelling with just a few bits and pieces, if you're travelling just as a tourist or a backpacker or something like that, you don't need a carnet. It's only the only reason you need a carnet is when you've got more than 10 grams worth of camera equipment. I think we had 18, 90 grams worth of camera equipment that the four of us were dragging around. So that's the only reason. So if you're out there and you're thinking about travelling, don't worry, you don't need a carnet.
That's a first big tip, I suppose. Just take you a bit further back. I wanted to ask you, how do you see yourself on your CV? Are you down as an actor, biker, explorer, producer, writer, father, travel writer? He's now clutching Race to Dakar.
Yeah, Race to Dakar, which is another one of my books. I've got 5, which are all available for Christmas.
Stop bragging.
Oh, no, I'm just thinking Christmas presents. And it says here, by the Times, a quote saying, the Michael Palin of motorbikes. So I think I'll just have that.
Yeah. So I won't get you singing Eric and Arthur B or doing the parrot sketch later on, maybe. You started riding motorbikes, or writing motorbikes, riding slip there, at the age of 7, and I just wondered, did your dad share that passion?
No, not at all.
Not mention your dad's famous, excellent film director, John Boorman.
Yes, yeah, Dad did films like Deliverance and Excalibur, Hope and Glory, Emerald Forest, and stuff like that. And he's a wonderful, he's an amazing man. And actually, I was very lucky enough to be able to, as you grow up, I travelled the world with my father when he was making movies, along with my family. And he was always chucking us into his movies because we were cheap labour. And and he, on a Deliverance, which is the first film I was ever in, he fobbed me off with a tricycle, but I suppose so. I got my kind of travel bug from him, really. But he wasn't interested in motorbikes. Mum's side of the family had no motorbikes in them at all, so I was a bike virgin.
And I mean, early on, what were your sort of ambitions? Because presumably your dad being a film director and involved in that industry yourself, just by being around and travelling the world. I mean, what were your ambitions at that time?
Well, I'm quite heavily dyslexic, and I always had problems in school with the academic side of things, and And I think for me, acting was an outlet for me to be able to express myself. I think in school I was very often sidelined because I was asked to stand up and read in class. I couldn't, and spelling was very bad. And a lot of the schools, 30 odd years ago, weren't, didn't have the understanding of what dyslexia meant. So I was often sidelined, and so it was down to my father a lot to help me read. And I was lucky enough to be able to travel to America, where they diagnosed me there. And they were so far advanced on dyslexia that nearly every school in America had some form of being able to cope with it. And so I kind of used, without unknowingly, I think I used acting as an outlet. And I think in school I was always acting the clown in school, and that was my way of getting around the embarrassment of not being able to read.
I noticed you're involved with a group called Dyslexia Action, and you do a lot of work with them. And I'm oh, the president, yeah, right. Ambassador of UNICEF, and
I can't spell either of them. I can't spell president, and I can't spell dyslexia.
So I mean, you're heavily involved with that, and it promotes sort of different ways of looking at dyslexia through teaching and teaching practices in schools, even in this country as well, presumably abroad as well.
Yeah, I think in this country it's the biggest dyslexia charity in the country, and basically what it does is it primarily assesses children to see what level of dyslexia they're at, and then puts them onto a program that's appropriate to their dyslexia. Because there's all sorts of different forms of dyslexic. You can be very mild, you can be dyspraxic, which is numbers. You can be very heavily dyslexic, which affects your writing, reading, and spelling. There's all different levels. I mean, all of us have a form of dyslexia in us. If you walk down the road and someone says turn right and you turn left by mistake, it's a classic form of dyslexia. Or you get your B and your D mixed up. We've all done it. At least I hope we've all done it. I have, anyway, certainly. But so what they do, they work with schools and stuff, and they being dyslexic, what happens is that they teach you a bag of tricks, or a little tool bag of things which you can use to help you in your life. Tricks how to learn to read, tricks on basic spelling and stuff like that. So they give you that grounding, which means you can get off and do whatever you want. But just being dyslexic is actually an advantage in society, because most people who are dyslexic are entrepreneurial or have a great mind to be able to go around the problem and think out of the box, because they can't necessarily go down that route because they can't spell or they can't read and stuff. What they do is they manage to get around it by getting other people to do the work for them, or finding other ways to do it. People like Richard Branson and Einstein and Jamie Oliver, and there's a whole bunch of people who are dyslexic. So it's not a curse. It's a positive thing.
Well, it gives you awareness, and presumably it's probably helped you in your travels in terms of how to work out things and how to see things from different perspectives.
Yeah, I think, well, when it doesn't matter if you can read or not, when you're walking down the street in Japan, none of us can read any of it anyway, so we're all on the same playing field with that. And at that point, I've got an advantage, you see, because everyone's been relying on reading, and I haven't. So, yeah. But yeah, no, so it's fine. I think you just get on with it. I don't think anyone should use dyslexia as an excuse to not to do something.